Now the only thing that is remaining is authors for our book, which will be many-to-many relation. But before we get into authors, there are many crucial pieces of Entity Framework Core that you need to understand. Let me switch back to the application. And in here, if we go to the top where we are loading the index, we saw the least efficient way, then we saw somewhat efficient way using explicit loading. But that's not fully efficient. Before we understand what we'll be improving, let's take a look at the query one more time. We'll add a debugger here and let's hit enter. When it hits the debugger here, we'll go to the output window and let's examine how many times the query got executed. Right here is the first query in which it selects all of the books, and then we have 3 calls for the publisher. So if you think about it, if we had 4 distinct publishers, it would have called the query for publisher 4 times plus 1 times to load all the books. So this is what we call n+1 execution. N depends on how many distinct publisher calls that you have to make to the database to get all of them, plus 1 to load all the book. So this is not that efficient. An efficient way will be to handle all of this in a single call. And that could be done with the help of eager loading. Eager loading is the process by where a query for one type of entity also loads the related entity as a part of the query, so we do not need a separate execution for the related entities. And eager loading in EF Core is achieved with the include method. Let's take a look at that right now. So we'll stop the execution here and we'll keep the debugger right here. Rather than going through a for each loop and going through all of this, there is a simple way. We'll comment this out, and on books, all we have to do is we need to call the include. You will do control dot in order to include the EF Core. Now here control dot is not working. If you go to the top, all you have to do is you need to add the reference to Microsoft.Entity Framework Core, and then include will work. Now if you take a look at the parameters with include, it expects a string of navigation property path. This basically means what property you want to load. We want to load the publisher. So what we were doing in reference, we can just copy this and paste it right here. Once we do this, let's run our application one more time and see what happens to the query execution. If we go to books now, and we take a look at the output window, let's go here, we'll scroll down, look at the query that is being executed right now. Everything is combined in one single query. It is retrieving from books as well as it is inner joining on publisher based on the ID. So that is how it does all of its mapping, and it makes only one execution to the database, and that will be really efficient as compared to the n+1 execution that we saw in the beginning. So you can see here the benefit that eager loading brings into the picture as compared to the explicit loading that we were doing so far. That being said, I think we can replace eager loading in one more place in our website, that is right here. I want you to try working this with eager loading and see how it works. Okay, I hope you were able to figure out how you can accomplish this with eager loading. It is quite simple. Before the first .default, we will have to use .include, and then we'll say u goes to u.bookdetail, and with that it will populate book detail. One thing to notice here is you have to add the .include before first.default. You cannot do the .include after first.default because include will work on the complete entities. You see, it gives an error if you try to do that. So we'll undo that, but I wanted to show you that you need the include on the entity, and then you can filter the data as per your requirements. But with include directly, you cannot filter the data like that. With that in place, let me put a debugging point here and see how the execution looks like. So we'll go to the book, we'll continue here, and we'll go back. Let's open up the output one more time. We'll clear it off, and we'll switch back and hit the details. Okay, so let's do F10 now to continue and see what query got executed. Right here you see it's doing select top one because of the first or default, and then it is doing the left join as we have defined with the include properties. So great, everything is working with the dot include, and we saw multiple examples for that. We'll go back here. I think that one was empty. If we go with this one, that is populated, and there we go. So great, everything is working as expected, and we learned a very important feature called as eager loading with the help of dot include. We will explore this in more detail as we proceed, but this is one of the core features of EF Core.